a ragged, curiously put together figure, though the above model would seem to have been followed more in his upper portion than in his lower. One result was that he seldom turned his head to look at the person with whom he was speaking, but rather directed his eyes towards, say, the stove corner or the doorway. As host and guest crossed the living room, Chichikov directed a second glance at his companion. "He is a bear, and nothing but a bear," he thought to himself. And indeed the strange comparison was inevitable. Incidentally, Sobakevitch's Christian name and patronymic were Michael Semenovitch. Of his habit of treading upon other people's toes, Chichikov had become fully aware, wherefore he stepped cautiously and throughout allowed his host to take the lead. As a matter of fact, Sobakevitch himself seemed conscious of his failing, for at intervals he would inquire, "I hope I have not hurt you?" and Chichikov, with a word of thanks, would reply that as yet he had sustained no injury. At length they reached the drawing room, where Sobakevitch pointed to an armchair and invited his guest to be seated. Chichikov gazed with interest at the walls and the pictures. In every such picture there were portrayed either young men or Greek generals of the type of Movrogordato, clad in a red uniform and breeches, Canaris, and others, and all these heroes were depicted with a solidity of thigh and a wealth of moustache which made the beholder simply shudder with awe. Among them there were placed also, according to some unknown system, and for some unknown reason, firstly, Bagration, (Footnote: a Russian general who fought against Napoleon, and was mortally wounded at Borodino.) End of footnote. Tall and thin, and with a cluster of small flags and cannon beneath him, and the whole set in the narrowest of frames. And secondly, the Greek heroine Bobelina, whose legs looked larger than do the whole bodies of the drawing-room dandies of the present day. Apparently the master of the house was himself a man of health and strength, and therefore liked to have his apartments adorned with none but folk of equal vigour and robustness. Lastly, in the window, and suspected cheek by jowl with Bobelina, there hung a cage, whence at intervals there peered forth a white spotted blackbird. Like everything else in the apartment, it bore a strong resemblance to Sobakevitch. When host and guest had been conversing for 2 minutes or so, the door opened, and there entered the hostess, a tall lady in a cap adorned with ribbons of domestic colouring and manufacture. She entered deliberately, and held her head as erect as a palm. End of Part 1, Chapter 5, Section 1.